Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Phyllis, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, health, longevity, and becoming what I call well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, grandparents, and loved ones. We, Senior Nation, will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network is known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I remain deeply grateful for this opportunity. So let's begin with today's show. My guests tonight are Daniel Sears and Michelle Casazza, co-founders of NeuroGenesis, a pioneering wellness company that integrates cutting-edge healing practices to address cognitive, emotional, and physical well-being. And now a little bit about the co-founders. Daniel Sears, retired Air Force veteran and a conscious leadership coach who drew upon his extensive experience in stressful situations to help found a company that addresses those issues, especially as it relates to healthy longevity. And Michelle Casazza is dedicated to unlocking human potential through a scientific approach to longevity, as well as holistic healing. And I'm very excited for them to share how NeuroGenesis is revolutionizing the aging experience and also enhancing cognitive longevity, reducing stress, and promoting restorative. So I'm welcoming them to the show.
Hi, Phyllis.
Oh, I guess I know we were having technical issues a little earlier, and I was having another technical issue when I was doing the intro. There was reverberation, and you know, I learned something very interesting about myself during that issue, because the normal, I think, tendency would be to stop, so that because you're hearing this reverberation,
Yeah.
and I said, wow, I just have to keep going. And however it sounds, you know, this show must go on, as they say, you know. So I hope it wasn't too distracting for the listening and viewing audience, but it is what it is. Everybody knows there are technical issues from time to time, but now let's get to talking about NeuroGenesis, which is the real star of the show. I don't want to take away your thunder. So, you know, we spoke the other day, and we met in an event just a few weeks ago, and I was fascinated by what you were doing, and especially as it relates to healthful longevity and reducing stress and restorative sleep, which probably I'd like you to talk about that when we get to that, because most people don't understand how important sleep is to health and wellness. I think they think of it as just something they do at night, but they don't really realize how important it is. So do you want to talk about how this all first developed, how you got started with it, and a little bit more about what NeuroGenesis is, because I'm sure people are wondering.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having us on the show and for that beautiful intro. It was a little choppy. It's okay. We'll clear it all up now. But you're right. Sleep is one of the most important things, and being able to allow the brain to rest and working on the way that you rest the brain is critically important. So, but yeah, we're excited to share more about the company, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background and how I came into this, and I'll hand it off to Michelle. So I was in the Air Force. So I retired after almost 17 years, and I was going back to school for industrial organizational psychology. And I was actually at that time studying about psychedelics and psychology. And so I actually ended up, I was doing some executive coaching, and I ended up in ketamine treatment, which was really extraordinarily transformational in my healing. And but the people that I was working with, they were not looking for that type of, they weren't looking for the psychedelic medicine. And so I wanted to understand how we could bring more of the non-ordinary states of consciousness, how to work out the mind and the body to be able to drop into flow. And I started to find these interesting pieces of technology, and studying the data that was coming out about them. And I started to use neurofeedback with my clients, and it was game changing. And so I just continued down that rabbit hole to find more of the technology. And so then NeuroGenesis started to come to be. But I see you're curious about something there.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people listening or watching may understand what flow means. So can you explain that a little bit, and why it's important to all of us, actually?
Yeah, that's a great call out. So flow is really one of those non-tangible states of being, right? It's where just everything is in peace. Everything moves synchronistically with the mind and the body. Actually, what happens on the inside is the heart and the brain are really on the same frequency, and so the heart and the mind are flowing at the same time, which makes really everything in ease in your mind, everything in ease in your body. Athletes drop into flow when they are when they're doing their trade. Performers, artists, they all drop into flow in different ways. So it's the state of being where things just feel very easy, and you feel very much at peace.
Right. So I would say it's like peak performance.
Peak performance, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
when it all really comes together, and then I want to hear how Michelle became part of that, and of the company, and her holistic healing, how the two mesh together. But yeah, I learned about flow state a long time ago from someone who was an athlete. And as I don't know if most people know this, but when you are performing at the highest level, you really are. And I don't know if this is a term, you could tell me if it's true, in like maximum flow. And it's like when everything is, like you say, it's like a car when everything is the well-oiled machine, and it's running well. I guess maybe to metaphorically, can I use that as an example for people? And when something is off, obviously the car doesn't run so smoothly. And that's what you're saying about our bodies and our minds.
Yeah, that's a good description of it. And so, yeah, I mean, so coming back in, working with technology, finding this interesting biohacking technology, and I saw the longevity benefits. And so not necessarily extending life, but living healthier, living better with more life health, right? And so I was working on this company. I was working with individuals one-on-one, and I was starting to span out. And at that time, I was introduced into Michelle, and she saw the company, saw the vision, saw my passion, and was excited to jump on. And she was really what I needed to really make moves with the company. And so since she's come on, things have just been accelerating. And so it's been really exciting. It's fun to work with somebody too. And Michelle's just really an incredible entrepreneur. So it's been very helpful.
So Michelle, now we're passing it off to you to tell us, since Daniel gave you such a great lead in.
Thank you, Daniel.
Well, lead in.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here just thinking about actually the Steve Jobs commencement speech. If you've heard it, he talks a lot about how life is all about connecting the dots. And well, if you find something that lights you up and feel you're passionate about it, you should follow it, even if at that point in time you don't know how it's all going to connect later. And that's really what brought me to NeuroGenesis, is a lot of different dots connecting from my past. So I come from the corporate world. My last job was actually at a sleep company where we sold sleep products, but really studied the science of sleep a lot. So I love that that's actually where this conversation started, with the importance of sleep as a pillar of wellness. At that time, I actually got really obsessed with the concept of flow and thinking about how we can access that flow state. And I thought about it in the sense of, if you're working in a career, like how can you be in flow more during your day? Because that's really where the magic happens. Coming back to the wonderful song that kicks off this podcast. And the other, dot that's been connected here is that after my time in corporate, I became a coach, and I helped women in corporate navigate from that high tension space to something that felt more aligned. So there's a lot of nervous system regulation, a lot of healing, a lot of becoming who you truly are in that phase. And it just felt really aligned. And the last dot that I'll connect is actually one that goes way back to when I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade, maybe 5th grade. We were learning about the difference between lifespan and life expectancy. And I remember sitting there as a kid thinking, why on earth are humans not living as long as human bodies can live for?
Right.
Like, it did not make sense to me. Like, there was this huge missed opportunity. And my personality is all about optimization and transformation. So when I heard that, I was like, we have to do something about this. So finally, all these years later, these pieces have all come together, and we're doing something about it, and really helping to extend people's health span.
Right. And I love that term. I learned that term a while ago, and it's being used a lot. It's not just about your lifespan, but your health span. But part of that, and I don't want to digress into, because that's a whole other area, but there's a book that was written, it came out recently, by Dr. Kessler. I forgot his first name for some reason right now. And it's called Diet, Drugs, and Dopamine. So it talks about, I don't know if you heard about this book, but it talks about how our diet and our, we're addicted to certain foods and certain ways of, eating, and it causes a dopamine effect. But this contributes a lot to, to the various conditions that are associated with our life experience, and more so even as we age. So, it's not, why aren't we living longer? Why aren't we living healthier? What is our health span? It's because of all these other factors that are causing us, not to be able to do that. And it takes a lot for the individual to change and adopt different habits and routines, and decide to be intentional about living a certain way and making different choices so that they can live more healthfully.
So
Yeah, actually, you said something there, the challenge that it is to make some of these changes. And I think that's one of the problems that we're set out to solve as well, or to resolve, which is, it is hard to make some changes, and it's because we're coming at it from a specific angle, right? And so I think Michelle might have said as like something about the nervous system health, and that's why things are hard usually for us to make those changes, because we're in a specific part of our experience, and our nervous system is really flipped on to the fight or flight stage typically. And so it's really hard to come out of that. And most of the time when people come out of it, they're going to sleep. And so we started with sleep. And so it's that
Right.
moment, it's the moment right before they go to sleep, then the nervous system switches off and then they fall asleep. And so they spend very little time without their nervous system activated. And we're just in a world, a time and a place where everything that we are ingesting turns that nervous system on. It is active. Looking at our screens, we're constantly emailing, we're doing things. There's notifications everywhere. And those things keep us tuned in, and it makes it harder to make some of the changes that we want to make. And so then that say-do gap that people talk about, we say one thing, but we do another thing, and usually that gap is very wide. We're looking to close that gap so that it makes things a little bit easier. And so tuning the nervous system is one of the ways to be able to access some of the subconscious parts of the mind and make the changes. And then come in neurofeedback, that's where we do some of the strength training of the mind to be able to enter into some of those other parts of the nervous system or the unconscious mind to make some of these changes. So then it happens a little bit easier.
I was going to say that I as people are listening to this, I don't want them to think this is all very woo-woo,
Yeah.
Nervous system, tap into my nervous system. What the heck are they talking about? And I want to get into how easy this really is. It sounds very woo woo, but it's not like somebody's going to probe into your nervous system, right? Because that would conjure up that thought in some people's minds. I mean, it may sound like a funny thing to say, but people could be thinking that, right?
Yeah.
But when I do coaching with people, and I have this idea about people becoming a term that I trademark, becoming a well-ager, continuing to age as healthily and well as you possibly can. And what I ask people frequently is, when does your day begin? And usually they'll say when they get up, or, whatever. I'm sure if I asked 10 people, they would have different versions of that, right?
Yeah.
And I tell them that your day actually begins with the night before, when you go to sleep, because that is really when your body revitalizes, when it heals, when it restores. And people, like I said, when I started, people don't think about it that way. They just think they're sleeping, and then they wake up, hopefully, right? Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Michelle, the ease of using this? It's not like somebody's probing into people's nervous system. They're going to go into their brain or their body and explain a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked a little bit about that health span, lifespan gap, and we're at a really interesting point in time where there is so much research and science coming out about longevity and health and wellness. And I actually felt very overwhelmed by it. I'm listening to all these podcasts, I'm looking to do my own research, seeing all these supplements, thinking like, what am I actually supposed to do to support my health in the long term? Because what you do today really dictates how you live in your later years, no matter what age you are. Correct. It's not about waiting. It's about taking care of yourself now. And so what we've built at NeuroGenesis is the world's first longevity protocol that combines the best of wellness technology and timeless healing modalities. And it really helps unlock peak performance, deeper connections, and better quality of life. And so there's a lot of ways to apply the protocol. It's really well suited for different spaces, like imagine the locker rooms for high performance athletes, or a longevity room within an assisted living facility, or even with mental health care practitioners to help them prime and prep their patients. And the reason why it works in all of these areas is because at the core of the protocol is the concept of calming down the nervous system, going from that place of fight or flight to rest and digest, right? So when you're in fight or flight, everything in your body, other than your heart and your lungs, shuts down. It's like an adrenaline response, right? Your body is trying to protect itself.
Right.
You have this. But when you stay there for a long time, which is what many of us do in our society these days, especially people living in the cities, especially people dealing with stress, you stay there for a long time and your cortisol levels stay up, your stress levels are high, and your body's not able to recover.
Right.
And like Daniel said, you're not getting back into rest and digest, which is your parasympathetic nervous system.
Right.
when you're in rest and digest, your body is able to do its thing, right? It's literally about digesting. Your GI tract works better. You digest the food better. You absorb nutrients more fully. You can eat the same meal under both states, each different state, and have a different nutrition impact to your body.
Right.
We want to be in rest and digest. And what we've seen with so many of our clients is that it takes quite some time to go through transformation and change. But when you're able to work with the nervous system and start your transformation from a place of calm, the breakthroughs are faster, the transformation's faster. You go deeper. And that's where we talk about the subconscious. You actually access your subconscious mind because you're calm, right? And so it's really like an incredible way for us to work with clients and to help people build out a protocol to serve their longevity.
Yeah. I wrote a chapter in a book a couple of years ago, and it really, I think, it addresses what you're saying, in a different way, without going into all that detail. And I was saying going from that, we're actually all in SOS mode, stressed, overwhelmed, and stretched. And we're constantly, our bodies are sending out these SOS signals, right? So how do you go from SOS, stressed, overwhelmed, and stretched, to strategies of success for your health, well-being, your body? And I would say NeuroGenesis is the answer to that. And so if we have a slide about that, kind of shows a little bit about what that looks like. The downshift, the deepening, and the awakening. So can you talk about that a little bit? What those stages are?
Yeah. So the downshift is really to downregulate somebody's nervous system. And so allowing them to feel some ease, to be able to drop back into their body, drop into their heart, help them to prime themselves to turn back where we're talking about the nervous system. We have the sympathetic state, the parasympathetic state. We're going to come into a calmer parasympathetic state. And so dropping down into the body, feeling the body again, understanding that, when Michelle was talking about digesting things, that's one of the things is we stop feeling what the information that our body is giving us, and our organs are deconstructing all of these. They're processing all these food, these nutrients, and they get activated, and they have emotions encoded them. They have information encoded in it, and so our body is telling us information. It's giving us really good information that we need to get into. And so the downshift helps us to get into that state. The deepening is where we do more of the work. And so that is some neurofeedback. We've got some PEMF that we're working in there. We're really tuning the body. And I love pulsed electromagnetic therapy. We are electrical beings, or we are chemical beings. But before that, we are electrical beings. We have electrical signals happening in and around the body, which activates the chemical signals, and then we have our feelings. And so when we're downshifting, we're regulating all of that. We're relaxing the body. In the deepening, we're doing some more of the work, and that's where we're opening up the neural pathways. We're dropping into more of the flow state. And so with the brain training, it's really interesting. We were talking about the woo-woo earlier, and I love this term because I often say we used to be in a state of woo-woo, and now we're in a state of woo, because with the advancement of science and technology, the medical field has been able to decode and deconstruct one of the parts of the woo. And so now we know it. Like we used to think our thoughts were in our head, but now we understand, you wear a sensor and it's able to read the activity that's going on. And so we're shifting through the brain waves in a specific way to be able to find more of our calm and access more of it. And it's really interesting because it's biofeedback, it's neurofeedback, it's feedback that you are getting real time based on your activity in your brain. And so it's all about you. And then you're getting that delivered to you in an audio form in the ears. So it's really gamifying this process of getting into flow. So there's no more questions. You're not just listening to a meditation on the Calm app and then hoping that you're in the right place that you're supposed to be. You're getting that real-time feedback that says, no, you're still thinking. No, you're still, oh, now you're calm. And so it does that. We often take clients through this one device that we use. They have a rainstorm. And so as you're thinking, it's raining. And if you start thinking harder, it rains harder. And when you start allowing your thoughts to drift away, then the rain clears up. And so that's you moving from a busy beta brainwave where we are in right now. We're in beta. We're actionable. We're having conversation. We are doing something right now. And so we're in a beta brainwave. When we're more focused and flow, we're going to go more into an alpha when we're in a calm, focused flow state. In between alpha or after alpha is theta, and theta is the door to the subconscious. And so that's where people are really trying to get to. These are where monks get to, right? They spend a lot of time meditating so they can get into their theta state. And the theta is actually really interesting because it's connected greatly to the heart and the body. So you're getting more information, what we were talking about earlier, information that the body's giving you. From there, you have delta, which is deep sleep, deep rest, more of the repair. And so we have some meditations like Yoga Nidra or NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. And that is deeper restorative delta waves that you're trying to access to repair the brain. So you can do that when you're awake, and you also access that when you're asleep.
So can I may I interrupt you to just ask a question, because
Please.
There's a lot of information here in different states, and so is this if somebody wanted to do this, and so is it only during a specific period of time that you need to work with you? Is it like a machine? Is it is it go through earphones? Or is it, is there other ways that it comes into your being? And there's just something else that I thought of, which is it's something that you said, and most of us, I would say, think that our thoughts are only in our brain, in our head.
Yeah,
but what you're saying, but based on what you're saying, that's not really 100% correct. Is that a correct interpretation of what you said?
So yes, and there's people that study this much more than I do that can probably have a better conversation. But I mean, when we're talking about our brain waves, they are waves that are coming that can be read outside of. They can be read outside of the brain, right? And so the waves themselves. And this is all talking about the deepening, right? This is the part where we are actively working on our brain training, right? And so I tell people this device, and so you asked, it's actually a headband that goes on your head, and then you wear some earphones, so then you get your audio feedback of what's going on, the rain or the calm. And so we have
so I'll stop you, because somebody asked a question that I think is relevant, which is, where is the science to back up some of your treatment, and have you done your own paper reviewed published studies, and can you talk about this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are working on our own studies right now, and so we're excited about that and doing more of the research, but thankfully, this is not anything new. They've been using neurofeedback for many years. NASA's been using for a long time. Every college, every Ivy League is actually using one of the partners that we have, Muse Headband. And so they've got a lot of literature on the efficacy of neurofeedback. And so now it's about using that in specific ways. And so I really enjoy the different neurofeedbacks that are coming out. I like Muse the most because I think it's one of the most versatile. And it's a Muse headband. Actually, I have one right here on my desk. And so this right here just has some sensors on the side. They can measure blood flow in the prefrontal cortex, and they have different sensors that go around on the head. So this goes on the forehead. You have sensors that lay on the ears. And so it's just giving you that real-time feedback of what's going on in the mind, what the busyness is. And so there is a lot of data on neurofeedback. It's FDA approved. There's a lot of really amazing things that is done with this. But we've got another one here.
Yes, my question is not about the technology. I know about that it's your application. No, wait. I know about that. It's your application that I'm interested in. And it's interesting because as you were talking about it, I formed a question, myself saying, have there been trials, because you said you're working with clients, have there been trials with this, and do you have pre and post outcomes that you can speak about?
Yeah, we do. And so stress reduction is one of the biggest ones. So with the, I think the application is actually what we're really excited about. And so we're taking many different modalities that have been studied on their own, and we're putting them together in a specific recipe, right? And so you can make a cake, but if you crack the egg and put it in after you pull the cake out of the oven, it's not going to work that well, right? And so
I would think not.
so we want to mix the batter up properly and then put the cake in the oven and then pull it out, and so it's ready to eat. So we're playing with that right now, and I think it's really interesting the order that we're putting things in to really drop people's nervous system down, allow them back into the body, and then do that work in their own brain to drop into their heart. That's what the end game is. And so we were going through the brain waves a little bit earlier. People want to get into the heart, and so that is this non-tangible thing that we hear all the time: get out of your head, get in your heart. But what does that really even look like?
And what does it mean to people? What does that mean to people, actually? I think what it means to people, not to interrupt, what it means to people and how, what you're doing with that to help people feel and function better are two different things.
It's true. Yeah.
I want to come back to this heart-centered question in a moment, because it's a really great topic to dive into. But just to go back to the question that came in around the application and the studies. So with each stage of the protocol, we're working with the best-in-class wellness technology out there, and we're selecting partners based on the research that they've done, that we've reviewed. And we're now commissioning our own research to look at the effects of all three pieces of the protocol together. So we're in the process of building out those studies to support more robust claims in the future, which is exciting. So we're in the early stages of that. Building out our medical board at this point with some really great MDs with great research experience. And we'll have that in the coming years as we build out that component of our own peer-reviewed research.
Yeah. So by the way, what's the number of years that the company has been in existence, and how, what progress do you think you've made up to this point? And then I want to get into a little bit about the more senior aspect of it, because that's, of course, my particular area of interest, and that's actually what we connected over. But can you address the first question first?
Yeah. So NeuroGenesis is a new company. We incorporated this year, and we've been working with clients as coaches individually for, Daniel, I'll let you answer, but 5 years for me, and using parts of the protocol with our clients in that way. So this is our first year in bringing it all together.
Oh, well, that's cool. And I just one other question, when the person was asking about research, you working with any major hospitals or major universities or sleep centers, or, any major, organizations that would be familiar to us?
I love that question. We are right now looking for those partners.
Okay.
So those would be great connections for us as we're building this out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then Daniel, Michelle was passing it back to you to talk about one aspect of that as well.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the coaching, I've in the military, I was a mentor and a training manager for quite some time. So in that process, I was mentoring young airmen as they were coming through for the majority of my career. And then when I came out, I was doing executive coaching and some leadership development coaching and organizational development coaching. So a lot of coaching experience under my belt as well. I actually do want to go back because there was a question, I think, about some of the benefits, and so that are studied. And chronic stress or chronic pain is one of the big ones that we're able to combat with the different modalities that we have, because what we're doing is helping with inflammation. We're helping with inflammation at the cellular level. We're helping with inflammation in the brain as well with the brain training. So increasing the gray matter and like really helping with the stress reduction side of that and connecting the brain and the heart. And so nervous system regulation, all of that we're doing, it's really helping to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, help with burnout, help with the cognitive improvement of memory, focus. We're really helping with pain. That's a big one too. A lot of these modalities are with pain.
So I being that you come from the military, how does this, have you worked with this with PTSD, especially with veterans?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so myself, when I retired, I had the label of PTSD, and I really didn't know what that meant for me. And that's what took me into this idea of like, how do I heal this? Everybody's saying you're not going to heal this. You can only learn to manage it and live with it. And I didn't like that. I didn't like hearing that because I thought that we were capable of more. Like we are the most advanced pieces of technology on this planet. Why do we have to learn how to live with something like that? And so hence the name NeuroGenesis too, because neuroplasticity and creating more neurogenesis is actually what we're doing and what we're capable of doing. And so that I really enjoy the fact that we have the ability to learn how to heal from the inside out. And I think that that's what our company is really founded on.
That's the crux of it, really, healing yourself from the inside out. And it's not probably what people are thinking, the traditional ways: eat differently, adopt different habits, although those things are all important. When, something I heard a while ago, and I said to the person who said it, I'm going to use that. And can I use that? And they said, I heard it from somebody else. So I said, okay, great. I will just pass it on down the road. Right. So it was some of these, going back to habits or making changes, they can be hard. They're not, it's not easy. It can be hard. And some of that, not some, a good part of that is people think willpower is just something that comes, wait, this is not going to sound, you could probably describe this better, that it's just your determination that does it. I'll call it. I was going to use the same word, will. But being sick or having these other issues is also hard. So pick your heart, I guess. So now Carl says a problem with neurofeedback is our ability to interpret it. It's very complex. Biofeedback is a conscious state and is difficult to apply to sleep consciousness and its stages. So do you want to address that?
Yeah.
I take it first, actually, Daniel.
Go for it. Yeah, please.
So I read this one because I basically had the same question when I started exploring neurofeedback, which was like, first of all, I don't want to train my brain. My brain is fine. Like, I was like very much a skeptic and like fearful of it. And then I just learned that it was actually just helped me get into a deeper meditative state by letting me know through that rainstorm or through the birds that I was either in my thinking mind or in my calm meditative mind. And so I've been meditating for about over 10 years now, consistently for the past 4. And it's really interesting to be using neurofeedback now, probably for the last year, because I can actually see and feel when I'm going into that deeper heart space, which would really only happen once in a blue moon before. Now I'm getting there more frequently. So when you say it's very complex, it absolutely can be, but the program that we're partnering with and where we're using is built to have such a simple interface where if you can understand the difference between rain and a bird chirping, that you can understand, am I going deeper into my meditation or not? And the benefits of meditation are what lead to better sleep quality, better quality of relationships, more equanimity in our emotional state. And so for me, like that was enough to say, this is really an incredible modality. But I'll pass it back to you, Daniel, because I'm sure you have another layer of a response.
But I just want to interject something, because I find I listen to certain audios when I sleep, most of the time. Sometimes, actually, the days that I don't, which is infrequent, I wake up more frequently. And when I listen to them, whether it's binaural beats, or it may not be as sophisticated as what you're doing, a variety of different ones, I find that when I wake up, I feel very rested.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to touch on two quick things. And one is, Phyllis, you brought up the military. And so what I love about my military background is that the government's been using a lot of these really interesting technologies for quite some time with their troops. And it's widely known now that the military has been using a lot of biohacking type of equipment. And there's actually 3 Air Force bases right now that are using a protocol that's similar to ours, and they have some of the same equipment. And so they're already putting this together for some of their top fighter pilots, for some of their top special forces teams, and they're teaching them this. And they're not teaching, and they're teaching, SEALs. They're teaching Navy SEALs how to drop into their heart. They're teaching special forces units to drop into their heart. It's not so they can go shoot love bullets at people. It's so that they can be in ease and calm and flow with each other. And so I think it's allowing us access to more of our awareness of our surroundings, and our ability to communicate non-verbally with each other too.
So I just thought of something. Tell me if this applies. It may or may not, but like this visual just popped into my head. So when you watch the Olympics, and they have I don't remember what the event is called, but they have to run, or I don't remember if it's a winter or summer sport. They have to run. They have to do something very physical. I'm sure I hope a listener will be able to tell me what it is, because I'm just drawing a blank. But they have to stop and then shoot at a target with a bow and arrow. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
And so how do you get to the point where you can calm yourself from that I'll call it excited activity level, to be able to do that and do it effectively? Oh, okay. So can you answer that first? And then Danny says, so which are you advocating for? White noise, nature sounds, music, pink noise, or ASMR?
This is a great question. I think here we're just in something that's going to help you calm. We're not really. You had said something about binaural beats, and those are a little bit more specific than these types of sounds that we're choosing from here. So I think those are more preference, I would say. Binaural beats are something that's actually activating different parts of the brain, and it's binaural, so it's activating one in one ear, another in another ear. So your brain does some work to synchronize those beats and then to blank it out. And in that process, it does whatever you're trying to plug into, whether that's calm, focus, flow, something like that. But these are noises to help you fall asleep. They're not really what we're talking about in this moment. But I like your question about the Olympic sports, and that's something that's really great about the calming the nervous system. It's about being able to capture your bodily functions through breath. And that's a big part of our component too. That's the third stage, is oxygen therapy in some form. We have some different options there, but the breath is so important. And most people are breathing unconsciously. And
correct.
And we can take people through a breath work, and 2 minutes into it, people are starting to yawn. And it's interesting because that yawn is the body's indicator that the nervous system is shifted off. And the body's used to the only time that happens, it's time to go to sleep. So middle of the day, wide awake, you start breathing, and then you yawn. And you're like, oh, my nervous system just flipped over, and now something else.
Okay, wait, I have to comment on that, or ask a question, because as I'm a speech and language pathologist, okay? So from my vantage point, it's kind of what you're saying, but I say it a little differently to people. And so if I'm saying it in a way that isn't consistent or you feel is incorrect, please correct me so that I say it the correct way. So what I tell people is when they yawn, they think when they're yawning, they're tired. That's not really 100%. That's how they associate it. They associate yawning with tiredness. But the reality is that their body isn't, they're breathing very shallowly and their body isn't getting sufficient oxygenation. And when you yawn, if you think of a siphon or a funnel, right? The most goes in at the top of the funnel, right? So when you yawn, which is the beginning of the entrance to your lungs, you're really opening up to get the most air into your lungs to oxygenate it fully.
Yeah.
What do you think of that explanation?
Yawning.
What?
I'm having a really hard time not yawning.
Well, was that explanation got you very tired? Was that?
Hold it.
Well, give me a better way to say it. But when I tell it to people, they seem to get it. But obviously, it put you to sleep. So
no, it made sense, but it made me want to yawn.
Yeah.
Well, then you're not breathing. You're not really breathing optimally. You're not breathing diaphragmatically. It's about your breathing, right? You're talking about breath work. If you're not breathing optimally, if you're not breathing diaphragmatically, then the reality is your lungs are not being oxygenated to are not bringing in the maximum amount of air because your lungs are like a triangle. Okay. So if you're not breathing, if you're breathing shallowly, really only the top third of your lungs are being oxygenated. But when you really breathe diaphragmatically and your diaphragm contracts, maximally, then really the air is going into the widest part of your lungs and you're getting the most air, the most oxygenation into your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, breath is so important, right? And you have a great explanation there. And I tell people you have different quadrants, and I'll do a quick little breath thing for us here. And then I'd love to jump into some benefits for your community because I think it's really important. I don't want to touch on that, but I tell people all the time that they are breathing like a hot air balloon. And so a lot up here and a little down here, right? And so we're just pulling in enough unconsciously to bring oxygen to the brain, the throat, which we need to communicate, and the heart just to barely stay alive. So breath comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. And then from there, we can turn that upside down and do a pair breath where we do that diaphragmatic breath and we take a lot into the belly. And then we can shift the nervous system that way. And so then we have what I say is the hot dog breath, where after we do a few of those, then we just really elongate up and down the spine and bringing your breath all the way into the body, into different areas where it feels interesting, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes a little painful. But after you do it a few times, you move things around in your body and then it becomes much easier. And so practicing breath work is extraordinarily important for people.
Right. So Judy says, are you familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink? Yes, I am. I love Malcolm Gladwell. Actually, he's one of my favorite authors. He describes the ability of professional athletes' ability to suspend audio and visual information and slow down time to see the most effective strategy to succeed. Yeah. And says, you are on to something. We have this capacity.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Judy. Yeah.
Yeah. They have that ability to do that. I mean, that does take training.
It does.
It's not something that you just have because you're an athlete. All of these things take work. It takes conscious effort. It takes education. It takes working with a coach. I mean, I don't know if people are aware that, I think she said, are you familiar with No, the same question. Actually, I want to say something about that, about Malcolm Gladwell. I don't think people are aware that athletes really have extensive training beyond the sport that they are participating in or that they're trying to excel at. Tremendous amount of training. And as technology has advanced and, there are different coaching strategies and different areas that can be applied to whatever whatever sport the athlete is participating in. I mean, it's a wealth. It's a wealth. Just like years ago, football players started taking ballet lessons or dancing lessons, right? But I just want to say something about Malcolm Gladwell, because he is one of my favorite authors, and that's how I happened to meet the director of this station, because he wrote a book called The Revenge of the Tipping Point.
Yeah.
And it's I thought it was particularly meaningful for me because as I started this show saying we are indeed a senior nation with 100 million people over the age of 50, which is about a third of our nation, I believe we are at a tipping point, not only because the Census Bureau says that by the year 2030, the number of people over 65 will outnumber the number of people under the age of 18, but as a way of informing the population and maybe changing the dialogue around how we value care for older people and longevity and healthfulness in our older ages, that I think we are at that tipping point. So I'm glad the person brought up Malcolm Gladwell. But that's a great pivot to talking about seniors and longevity and touching on that. And we have a slide about that as well, actually, if we want to bring that up.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and then I'll hand it off to Michelle. So neurofeedback is really one of the most important things. You know, the downshift that we talk about is really going to help people with their comfort. It could really help with their pain. It could help with some stress. It could help alleviate quite a few things. But the neurofeedback is really where people want to stay sharp. And so I've worked with a lot of some elderly, some middle-aged executives, people that want to keep their mind sharp, some people that have retired and they still have a lot left in the tank and they don't want to just let that go to the wayside. Neurofeedback is really the at-home gym for your brain. And so that's one of the best things. You know, it's a kettlebell, basically. You know, this little thing, you bring a kettlebell into your room and you have one tool. With a trainer, you can train the whole entire body. And with this one tool right here, you can train just about everything that you need to with the brain. And you can even train the brain to drop into the heart. And that's what we talked about too, which is what everybody wants.
I like that, an at-home gym for your brain. I'm sorry, but I love that. I'm going to make a note of that, actually. Maybe you want to use that.
Definitely. So it's critically important. It's a great part of the protocol. And then the last part is oxygen. And so it's like, that is such an incredible part of our life. And we have the ability to maximize the way that we intake oxygen in different ways now. And because of the advancement in technology, we have more of those ways to compound that other than just breathing. So we really want to impact the body in a lot of different ways, and especially with the aging population and what you just touched on there, the tipping point. We want to be there. We want to help. You know, my parents are getting there, and I want to make sure that they're aging with ease and for the longevity, so that they can be around for as long as they want, instead of just allowing their body to slowly decline without any reins of how it's happening. You know, any call. So
one of something that I really am passionate about is the fact that there is a lot of research about reversing aging. I'm not a fan of that term, but I understand where it comes from and why they use that term. But about longevity increasing, we know about the health span, the lifespan, people living longer. People are living longer. 90s, I know many people over 100. But here's my contention, that if we don't live more vibrantly, if we don't live more healthfully, then what's the point? And if we don't live with more dignity and value and a means of contributing, then what's the point of living longer, just to exist? And so I think what you're giving people is so fantastic, because it gives them rejuvenation, maybe renewed sense of purpose, maybe, it says, can this help somebody with sleep apnea? That's a great question. I come from that space, by the way, because my specialty originally was with people who have any kind of respiratory condition. So that's actually a great question. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, sleep apnea is, we're having a lot of trouble breathing while we're asleep, and there's a multitude of different things that are happening, I'm sure, for sleep apnea to fully be set in. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing some breath training and working on some postural things, you're working on moving some of the energy and the fascia around in your body, working on your posture in different ways, you can definitely help sleep apnea. I've helped one of the guys that I worked with had sleep apnea, and I had him doing breath work, had him doing some posture training with his chin and his neck, and cleared up. So
Oh, I'd be interested in finding out what that is at another time. We can have that conversation. As a
yeah.
speech pathologist, I work with people, or have certainly with sleep apnea, and know many people with sleep apnea. I actually know somebody who invented many years ago the first, I think, home test for sleep apnea for his father. I forgot how many decades ago that was. But yeah, my specialty originally was people with respiratory conditions and people with on trachs and vents, but respiratory conditions, COPD, and sleep apnea is a sort of is a kind of respiratory condition. Actually, maybe you want to say what sleep apnea is. A lot of people might not know what that is. I do, but you want to say what that
please,
is?
you're the
No, you go ahead.
No,
Okay, so people are, they stop breathing for a period of time while they're sleeping, right? It's a disruption of your breathing patterns when you're sleeping, and you could obviously that could have fatal effects. We'll just say.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to talk more about how this could be helpful for your community, especially.
I'd love that.
You want to take this one? You want to jump in?
Yeah. So right now, as we're building out the protocol and bringing it to market, we're working with clients here in New York, which is exciting. So if you're on the East Coast, we are working with clients individually. We're also doing really exciting activations. So we're showing up at retreats, interesting events. We have one coming up actually in Egypt in 2 weeks, which is really exciting. And we're also building out the protocol. Like I mentioned, I think I mentioned this earlier. We were on another call today too, so it might have been then, with mental health practitioners. So looking for that. And yeah, our website is liveneurogenesis.com, and we invite you to get in touch if this is of interest. We'd love to share more about it, see how it could be helpful with you individually. And what I find most exciting about this is that it really feels like a new wave of healthcare. If you think about the way healthcare has evolved, it started out with, we have a question about virtual, which.
Right. Can this treatment be done virtually? But I want to, after you answer that, I want to bring up that slide again so people can take that QR code as a way of getting in touch with you and finding out more. But can this be done virtually?
Some components of our coaching can be done virtually, but to get the full impact of the protocol, we would help you either set it up in your home or have you travel to experience it.
Is that so? I have a question about that actually. So, if people could do it in their home, would they have to? And you're saying you could set them up in their home. Would there be like a one in-person meeting and then, or a training period, and then they would take the device home and then have virtual meetings with you about how they're doing with it, or how to progress, or different aspects of it that you would give them to work on?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we build out in-home longevity lounges, it's a fully bespoke experience that includes selecting the specific products for each portion of the protocol that will work best for you with your specific needs. And then actually helping you with the installation and setup. Although it's quite simple, we do provide that support. And then we also offer 6 months of integration coaching to make sure that you're understanding how to leverage the technology to its highest and best use, and that we're also providing integration support, because while the primary benefits all happen at the level of the body, they also creep into the mind and the soul, and you really get really deep on what you're working through when you start healing some of these more physical conditions. And so we're there to provide that integration support throughout. So that's a special component of getting the full in-home setup.
So if we could bring that slide up again, I'm so glad that was the cue for that. So if people want to take that QR code and they'd be able to get in touch with you, learn more about the company and the program. And, we'll just leave that up for a moment. Is there anything else you want to share? But this has just been super, super terrific.
Yeah, thank you. It's, Michelle touched on some of the activations that we're doing, and we're definitely planning on, we're working through some right now with some assisted living homes. And so being able to bring this technology to the communities there and to allow them to experience the ease that they're getting, allow them to experience some of the benefits and the reversing aging that you touched on earlier. I love that because this is longevity simplified. Really the marker for aging is the telomere, right? And
right.
So in the body, and it's interesting, different parts of the technologies or the protocols that we're using each have their own literature on increasing the telomere length. And so we are impacting the body at a cellular level. We are impacting the body in the telomeres. We're impacting the body in the neuroplasticity. We're impacting the cellular health, the inflammation. We're impacting it all through frequency and in a lot of really interesting ways. And so we are doing some things to turn those hands back on the clock, to reverse the aging. And so allow people to feel more vitality. And that's really the point of it all. If you don't have that vitality, like earlier you were saying, what are we doing?
Right, exactly. Well, I just can't thank you enough, telling us about senior, NeuroGenesis, and it is truly, I think, a program that's revolutionizing the aging process. I mean, it seems that way to me. It can enhance, cognitive longevity, reduce stress, promote restorative sleep. I mean, all important components, but this mind heart connection is and getting into yourself at the heart level and bringing all systems together is crucial if we're going to live optimally. I say, like I gave the example of a car in the beginning. If there's any system that's off, the car is not running smoothly. And we don't think about it, I don't think, on a regular basis, because we just function and go about our lives in a routine way. And we don't think about that we're really a system. The body is really a system. And I think too often we overlook parts of the system or how the system can be function more optimally together for our health and well-being. Yeah. So I certainly hope listeners and viewers will take the opportunity to connect with you and learn more about NeuroGenesis. It's been terrific.
I hope so. Thank you for having us.
Phyllis, love your show, and it's so nice to be here as a guest.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's great.
So please join me next Wednesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Senior Nation to hear my conversation with Raymond Jetson, the CEO and founder of Aging While Black. Raymond will discuss the differences in the aging experience across ethnic backgrounds, and I will hope to discuss with him the differences for different parts of the country. So please remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions on May 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV radio network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.